session. Can I welcome colleagues to today's meeting of the Ad Hoc Committee and remind those in the public gallery that they're welcome to use their mobile devices as long as they are on mute and in airplane mode. Start off by taking apologies just from Mr. Delarky. Have we any others? No. If I can give my apologies for next Tuesday. As a man who follows Northern Ireland around the world losing their football matches, I'm in Sweden next week watching Northern Ireland on Tuesday, so apologies from me. Declarations of interest, members, apart from those that have already been recorded as a standing one on this item, are there any further ones members wish to raise at this stage? None. Chairperson's business, I have none. Draft minutes are at page 7 of our deliberations on the 11th of March. Can members content to approve? Agreed, thank you. Matters arising, any member wishes to raise at this stage? If I could just refer members to page 5 of the table pack, and this is just further clarification from IPSA. So further to our evidence from IPSA last week, they have advised that a requirement is that one of its 5 members must be a former holder of high judicial office, and one must be a statutory auditor, and one must be a former member of Parliament. I think there was some confusion in the evidence that IPSA provide to us that actually, in fact, that there is no specific time period that must have elapsed since the former member of Parliament has left the House of Commons. So there was an indication given by IPSA that that was a 5-year disbarment. However, that 5-year disbarment actually applies to anyone who is applying that wouldn't be considered as a former member of the House of Commons, who were applying in their own right rather than under that application. Are members content with to note those correspondence and then to publish them on the committee's website? Yep. Great. And the correspondence can be further considered during the committee's deliberations later in the meeting. The plenary debate on the motion to extend will then take place on Tuesday the 25th of March, and it is expected that the date will be confirmed once the order paper is issued later today. We then move to item 6, which is an oral briefing from Assembly Research and Information Services, and welcome Ray back again as always. Ray, thank you very much, sir, and if you're content, we'll hand over to you.
Thanks very much, Chair. Good afternoon, members. So it's just the paper provides a high-level overview of comparison of devolved powers here, Scotland and Wales. Won't take up too much of your time. Just starting with the classifications of devolved powers. So as members know, in Northern Ireland there are 3 categories of law in relation to devolution. Those that are reserved, those that are accepted, and finally transferred. And then as previous research from the House of Commons highlights that this triple division of powers is unique to devolution in Northern Ireland and is derived from the former Parliament of Northern Ireland and various aborted devolution schemes in the 1970s and 80s. In Scotland and Wales, powers are generally referred to as reserved or devolved. And then, members, you can see in Table 1, which is reproduced from the UK Civil Service website, really just a high-level comparative summary of devolved powers. So in the far left column, you have the powers that are devolved to all 3 regions of the UK. So, for example, health, social services, education, training, skills, housing, economic development. And then as you move along the table, you can see those powers that are also devolved to Northern Ireland, such as justice and policing. Scotland has the same. And then as you move along, you see the powers that are devolved to Wales. So you can draw some high-level comparisons, I would say, there. Obviously Wales not having justice and policing compared to Northern Ireland is a significant gap. Northern Ireland also has social security, child support, pensions, oversight of the Northern Ireland Civil Service. Some income tax is devolved to Wales and Scotland, less so in Wales. And you can see various equal opportunities that are specific in relation to public bodies and Wales. Northern Ireland, long-haul rates of air passenger duty. Scotland and Wales do have oversight of their own elections, but I suppose that's probably a fairly small policy area when you compare it to something like criminal justice, and probably doesn't take up really a huge amount of time over the course of a mandate. As the paper goes on to say, so devolution has been asymmetrical, so it hasn't all moved at the same pace for various reasons. And the devolved powers really reflect this. The Welsh Assembly started off, as what would you say, as a fairly weak institution. It's gained powers over time through various reviews, the Richard Commission, the Silk Report, Then you can see in response to the Scottish independence referendum, the push for Devo Max, as it was known. So I suppose just to emphasise that comparisons at that high level are okay, but at an administrative level it can be more complex, sort of the intergovernmental relations in terms of the exact sort of lines in the sand of where power and responsibility sits. Section 3 of the paper just gives an overview of reserved and accepted powers. Scotland and Wales have specific reservations and general reservations, and there's just a couple of examples laid out there. They're classified under what are known as heads in the relevant legislation. And then in Northern Ireland, obviously, as members are very familiar with, there's reserved matters and then accepted matters. Reserved matters can be legislated on with the consent of the Secretary of State. Accepted matters would require primary legislation, and the accepted matters are what you would expect: constitution, international relations, defence, etc. Just Section 4 sets out a figure one from reproduced from the Institute for Government, which is UK government department spending in relation to devolved policy areas. And I think there's some interesting figures there. So you can see in figure 1, education, levelling up, health and social care, really all sort of 100% devolved. But then you move into areas around transport, business and trade, and you can see where there's some differences come into play there. And just on the quote there on page or under section 4 from the Institute for Government, it just sits to say that this complex landscape can complicate policy making, leading to disagreement as well as confusion over what decisions can be made and at what level. And finally, just in conclusion, just to say that devolution, or the appetite for more powers, has really deepened since 1999, certainly from Scotland and Wales, and obviously the particular landscape that the Assembly operates with the sort of the stop-start nature of devolution. But the general trend really has been for increased powers, and that's probably something that is likely to continue in the future. So members, that's just an overview really of the briefing, and I don't know if members have any questions. I'd be happy to try and answer.
Any member have any questions? Paula? Sorry, I came to you too quick.
You're okay. It was at table 1. Is there any way that could have been presented by our departments? Do you know what I mean? Where you would have health, and then the read across of where we would have additional powers, etc. Do you know what I mean? And then economy, where we would have powers, and at the minute it sort of jumps about quite a bit.
You said, could the departments produce something?
I'm just saying, I wonder if that could have been reworked into like communities, so we all have housing, but some of us maybe have social security. You know what I mean?
Potentially could be, I suppose. Yeah, then the classifications in Scotland and Wales might be somewhat different. Yeah. But it is. I mean, if members wish,
I could probably do it myself, but I'm just saying I think that it.
I think the difficulty might just arise with government departments. Obviously, don't mirror each other across the UK.
Yes, not necessarily.
It might be difficult.
And I think that's why it's high level, because once you start digging deeper into it, it does become more complex as well. Certainly in the literature that I've reviewed, the House of Commons do a lot of work on constitutional issues. I haven't seen it laid out to that extent, but that's not to say it couldn't be done.
Chair, it's just like, for example, the top line there, it says Welsh language. I would have assumed that Scotland, they have their minority languages stuff, and then we have it as well. So I just think that it probably isn't as clear as it could be in terms of where there are similarities in terms of powers. You know what I mean? Anyway, it's not a big deal.
The difficulty is just slightly trying to, as you say, once you get into specific issue around housing and things like that, we may have different powers in relation to some issues of housing than other parts. So yes, I think you try to keep this as high level as you can.
It is quite high level, Chair, and I say it probably would be a significant piece of work to sort of drill down deeper into it.
I think it gives a good overview in terms of where, and I suppose the most useful one is, well, from my perspective, is the breakdown by spend in terms of percentage. The table just above paragraph 4 on page 23, I think gives a useful in terms of the spend is very useful to how they do that. So, right, thank you very much for your work as always, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks,
you.
members.
No, not at all. Thank you. Okay, members content then that we agree to publish the paper on the committee's page of the Assembly website.
Yes,
Perfect. And then that can be considered later on. If I move then to item 7, which is consideration of written evidence from the Independent Remuneration Board of the... I keep pronouncing this wrong. This isn't the Shanad, this is the Senate. Yes, okay, the Senate. The clerk's briefing note and cover note of tab 7 of the meeting. Is there any comments or questions on this, or are members content that we publish this then on the Assembly website also? Agreed? Okay. We then move to Assembly Members' Remuneration Bill, consideration of written evidence. A further 2 responses have been received to the call for evidence, and these are included at page 33 and 36 of the meeting packs. Are members content to publish the responses on the webpage? Thank you. The call for evidence then closes tomorrow at 5 p.m. And then any further responses will be distributed to members in their bill folders and considered at the next meeting. At this stage, we're going to begin our deliberations on the bill. So I seek your agreement, as is custom and practice, that be done in closed session. Members content that we move into closed session? Okay, that's been agreed. So the committee can move into closed session. Consider it.
Sorry, are we in public session?
Okay, just to reflect, we've agreed then, members, the clause 1 that the committee will be keen to engage with the Commission in relation to a potential amendment to the name of the board. Clause 3, we'll be keen within our report to highlight within the Welsh model that the panel gives due regard to the wider financial circumstances in Northern Ireland, and we look forward to receiving, hopefully by next week, the copy of the Commission's draft amendment to clause number 4. Are members content with that?
Yep.
Okay, that is agreed then. Happy with that, Jim?
Yes, Chair.
No problem at all. We then move to item number 10. Oh, sorry, no, just to agree that we update the bill scrutiny table with the Assembly Committee and request a response from the Commission. Members content on that? Yeah. Correspondence, there are none. Members. Then item 11 is the draft work plan at page 73, and that includes provisionally scheduled meetings for Thursday the 27th and Thursday the 3rd of April. Members content with that? Yep. Thank you. Any other business at this stage, members? If not, then we'll be... Oh yes, sorry, Paula.
Are we going to be taking any oral evidence from anybody who's submitted any written submissions?
So I have, I'm sure others have, I've read through most of the responses that have been received. A lot of them don't go into great detail in terms of what...
Well, I would agree with that.
What has been received. No, we have had no request from any other member of the House to give oral evidence to the committee. I haven't seen any other member who's not represented or parties represented on this committee provide a written response at this stage. They obviously have until the deadline of tomorrow. I personally don't think there's anything to be gained from the oral evidence session based on the written evidence that's been produced. People have provided useful information, but in a limited way in terms of most of them actually haven't filled out anything beyond the tick box exercise, which is useful to have. So at this stage I have no plans for further oral evidence if members are content. Okay. We'll be back here then, members, next Tuesday the 25th of March at 1 p.m, and thank you very much for your attendance, and we'll just adjourn the committee at this stage.
Committee Room 29. Sound.